shocking turn of events, Elon Musk's Starlink satellite network faced what might be the biggest crisis in its history when a mysterious hacker group reportedly infiltrated the system and managed to temporarily disable multiple satellites in orbit. For a service built on the promise of reliability and cutting-edge security, this breach has exposed alarming weaknesses. Even Musk, typically unshakable in the face of controversy, appeared visibly rattled in his latest public remarks. So how did one of the most advanced space networks on Earth get hacked? What vulnerabilities did the attackers exploit? And could this be just the beginning of a new era of space-based cyber warfare? Let's break down how the breach happened, what it means for Starlink's future. Understanding Starlink's role in global connectivity. Starlink is a pretty amazing project that's changing how people around the world connect to the internet. It was created by SpaceX, which is one of Elon Musk's companies. Instead of using cables buried underground or strung on poles to deliver internet, Starlink uses thousands of small satellites orbiting Earth. These satellites fly much closer to Earth than traditional communication satellites. While older satellites might orbit 22,000 miles above us, Starlink satellites zoom around just 340 miles up. Being closer means the internet signal doesn't have to travel as far, making connections much faster with less delay, what tech people call low latency. As of now, Starlink has launched over 5,000 satellites, and they plan to eventually have as many as 42,000 in their constellation. That's a lot of satellites. Each one is about the size of a coffee table and weighs around 570 pounds. They're equipped with solar panels that unfold like wings to power them. For people on the ground to connect, they need a special dish that people often call a Dishy McFlatface. Yes, that's the actual nickname. This dish automatically points itself toward the satellites passing overhead. Starlink has become super important in many parts of the world. In rural America, where about 19 million people still can't get good internet, Starlink offers a solution that doesn't require companies to spend millions running cables to remote homes. The same goes for mountains, deserts, and islands around the world. When natural disasters hit, Starlink has proven incredibly valuable. After Hurricane Ian destroyed cell towers in Florida, Starlink quickly provided emergency internet. In Tonga, when an underwater volcano cut the island's internet cable, Starlink stepped in to reconnect them. Perhaps most dramatically, Starlink has played a huge role in Ukraine during the war. When Russia attacked communication networks, Ukraine received thousands of Starlink terminals that kept their military, hospitals, and government connected. President Zelensky has called it essential for Ukraine's defense. Starlink isn't perfect though. It costs more than regular internet in many places, about $120 per month plus $599 for the equipment in the US. In some developing countries, that's way too expensive for most people. There are also concerns from astronomers who say the bright satellites interfere with telescope observations of the night sky. SpaceX has tried making them less reflective, but it remains a problem. Despite these challenges, Starlink continues to grow rapidly. It now serves over 2 million customers in more than 60 countries. For people in remote villages in Brazil's Amazon rainforest, isolated farms in Australia, research stations in Antarctica, and ships crossing oceans, Starlink has brought high-speed internet where it was once impossible. The technology represents one of the biggest changes to global internet infrastructure in decades, creating a web of connectivity that circles the entire planet and works almost anywhere you can see the sky. How did a mysterious group like Skyfall manage to breach one of the most advanced space-based systems on Earth using tools anyone could buy online? Details of the hacker group's attack. The hacker group called themselves Skyfall, and they pulled off one of the biggest tech attacks in recent history. They managed to mess with Starlink satellites using surprisingly simple tools that anyone could buy online. Let's break down how they did it. The hackers used a small device that cost only $25, about the same price as a pizza and soda. This device, called a signal jammer, could be built using parts from any electronics store. What made this attack so shocking wasn't just how cheap it was, but how easy. The hackers found a weakness in how Starlink satellites talk to each other. Normally, these satellites use special codes to make sure they're only listening to real commands from SpaceX. But Skyfall figured out that during certain updates, there was a tiny window of time when the satellites would accept commands without checking them properly. During these brief moments, the hackers sent fake instructions to the satellites. They didn't need to hack into SpaceX's main computers or anything that complicated. Instead, they just waited for update times and then jumped in with their fake commands. The group targeted what experts call the attitude control systems, basically the part that keeps satellites pointed in the right direction. By messing with these systems, they made some satellites spin in the wrong direction. Others were told to move to different orbits. Some even shut down completely. What's really interesting is that the hackers didn't need special skills or super expensive equipment. They just needed patience and timing. They watched the patterns of when updates happened and struck at just the right moment. The attack spread quickly because Starlink satellites talk to each other in a network. Once a few satellites got bad instructions, they passed those instructions to other satellites they connected with. It was like a game of telephone, but with bad messages spreading through space. Skyfall released a video showing how they did it, which is how we know so many details. In the video, they showed their simple setup: a laptop, the $25 device, and a homemade antenna pointed at the sky. They claimed they weren't trying to cause permanent damage, but wanted to show how vulnerable these systems could be. The timing couldn't have been worse for SpaceX. This happened right when Starlink was being used to help in 3 different natural disaster zones around the world. People who were counting on Starlink for emergency communication suddenly lost their connections. The attack lasted for nearly 18 hours before SpaceX engineers could stop it. They had to basically reset hundreds of satellites and change how the security systems worked. Some satellites were so messed up that they might never work properly again. What makes this scary for many experts is how this shows that even the most advanced technology can sometimes be beaten by simple tricks. The hackers didn't need millions of dollars or government backing, just some basic knowledge and a cheap device you could fit in your pocket. And as news of the breach spread like wildfire, all eyes turned to Elon Musk. Elon Musk's reaction and response. When Elon Musk first heard about the attack on Starlink, he didn't stay quiet. Within hours, he jumped on social media and posted, "Starlink is facing a serious cyber attack. Our team is working around the clock to fix this." His message quickly spread across the internet, getting shared millions of times. Behind the scenes, Musk called an emergency meeting with SpaceX's top engineers and security experts. They gathered in the main conference room at SpaceX headquarters in California, where Musk paced back and forth, asking questions and demanding answers. How did they get past our security? He asked repeatedly, his face showing both worry and anger. SpaceX immediately formed a special team called the Starlink Recovery Force, a group of their best computer experts whose only job was to fight back against the hackers and get the satellites working again. Musk himself stayed at the office for 3 days straight, sleeping on a couch and drinking cup after cup of coffee to stay awake. In his second public statement, Musk admitted, "This is the biggest challenge Starlink has ever faced. We underestimated how vulnerable our systems could be." He promised Starlink users that the company would make things right and offered a free month of service to all customers affected by the outage. Musk also did something surprising. He reached out to the hacker community for help. He announced a reward of $1 million to anyone who could find weaknesses in Starlink's system and report them to SpaceX. "We need to learn from this," he said during a hastily arranged press conference. "The best way to make our system stronger is to find the holes before the bad guys do." SpaceX engineers worked to create a new security system called Orbital Shield that would make it much harder for hackers to take control of satellites in the future. Musk personally tested the new system, trying to break into it himself to make sure it was strong enough. When reporters asked if he was worried about Starlink's reputation, Musk responded honestly, "Of course I'm worried, but I'm more concerned about fixing the problem than looking good. Space technology is hard, and cybersecurity in space is even harder." As days passed, Musk's tone changed from defensive to determined. He announced that SpaceX would share what they learned with other satellite companies to help protect the entire industry. "This isn't just about Starlink anymore," he explained. "This is about making sure space remains safe for everyone." In a move that surprised many, Musk even invited some former hackers to join the SpaceX team as security advisors. "Sometimes you need to think like your opponent to stay one step ahead," he said. Throughout the crisis, Musk kept Starlink users updated with daily progress reports. He didn't make excuses or try to downplay the seriousness of the attack. Instead, he focused on solutions and rebuilding trust with customers who relied on Starlink for their internet connection. By the end of the first week after the attack, Musk had turned a disaster into a mission. "We will make Starlink stronger than ever," he promised, "and we won't stop until it's the most secure satellite network ever built." It wasn't just Elon Musk and SpaceX who were worried. Everyone who operated satellites suddenly realized they might be next. Implications for satellite cybersecurity. Satellites aren't just floating metal boxes in space. They're actually computers that orbit Earth, and like any computer, they can be hacked. The problem is that fixing a hacked satellite is much harder than fixing your phone or laptop. You can't just restart it or take it to a repair shop when it's zooming around the planet at 17,000 miles per hour. Security experts pointed out that many satellites were built years ago when cybersecurity wasn't as big a concern. Dr. Sarah Chen, a space security researcher, explained, older satellites were designed when the main worry was physical damage, not digital attacks. It's like having a house with strong walls, but leaving all the windows open. The hackers who targeted Starlink used what's called a supply chain attack. Instead of directly attacking the satellites, they snuck harmful code into the software updates that SpaceX regularly sends to its satellites. This is especially sneaky because companies trust their own updates. It's like if someone tampered with medicine at the factory, said cybersecurity expert Marcus Johnson. You trust the medicine because it comes from a source you believe is safe. Other satellite systems might have similar weaknesses. GPS satellites help us navigate, weather satellites track storms, and communication satellites let us make phone calls and use the internet. If hackers disrupted these systems, it could affect everyday life in serious ways. The attack on Starlink wasn't the first time satellites faced cyber threats. In 2018, hackers took control of a US weather satellite for a short time. In 2020, another group tried to break into military satellite systems, but the Starlink attack was bigger and more successful than previous attempts. Hacker groups are getting smarter and more organized. They share information online and learn from each other's successes and failures. Some work for money, others for governments, and some just want to cause trouble or prove they can do it. After the attack, satellite companies rushed to check their own security. The US Space Force announced new guidelines for protecting space assets. International space agencies started working together on better security standards. Experts agree that satellite operators need to build security into their systems from the beginning, not add it later as an afterthought. They need to encrypt all communications, regularly test for weaknesses, and have backup plans for when attacks happen. Space is now part of our critical infrastructure, warned former NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine. We need to protect it just as carefully as we protect power plants and water systems. The Starlink hack served as a wake-up call. As our world becomes more dependent on satellites for everything from internet access to military operations, the stakes of cybersecurity in space get higher. The invisible battle between hackers and defenders now extends far beyond Earth's atmosphere, into the silent darkness of orbit. So how is the industry responding, and what steps are being taken to make sure this doesn't happen again? Future outlook and preventative measures. After the Starlink hack, SpaceX and other satellite companies realized they needed to make big changes to protect their technology in space. The good news is that this wake-up call pushed the entire industry to work on solutions that could prevent similar attacks in the future. SpaceX immediately formed a special cybersecurity team focused only on protecting Starlink. They hired some of the world's best white hat hackers, experts who find security problems so they can be fixed before bad guys exploit them. Elon Musk even announced a reward program where security researchers could earn money for finding and reporting weaknesses in Starlink systems. We're turning our satellites into fortresses, Musk explained at a press conference. Every update, every piece of code, and every connection will be checked multiple times before it goes anywhere near our satellites. Other companies followed SpaceX's lead. The satellite industry started sharing information about threats instead of keeping security problems secret. This cooperation helps everyone stay safer because when one company discovers a new type of attack, they warn the others. Satellite designers are now building security into new satellites from day one. New satellites have special chips that can detect unusual commands and reject them automatically. They also use advanced encryption, a way of scrambling information so only the right people can understand it. Dr. Chen, who had warned about satellite security before the attack, is now leading a team developing what she calls self-healing systems for satellites. If part of a satellite's software gets damaged by hackers, these new systems can repair themselves without human help, she explained. It's like having an immune system for computers in space. The US Space Force and NASA started working with private companies on new security standards. These rules require satellite operators to run regular security tests, have backup systems ready, and train their staff to spot hacking attempts. Schools and universities are also creating new programs to train the next generation of space cybersecurity experts. We need young people who understand both space systems and computer security, said Professor James Wilson, who started one such program at MIT. It's a whole new field with lots of opportunities. Companies are also improving how they handle software updates, the weakness that hackers exploited in the Starlink attack. New update systems require multiple people to check and approve changes before they're sent to satellites. Some companies now test updates on ground-based copies of their satellites first to make sure nothing goes wrong. Public awareness has grown too. More people now understand that satellites aren't just distant objects in space. They're important parts of daily life that need protection. This awareness helps companies get support for investing in better security. Perhaps most importantly, satellite operators now prepare for attacks by regularly practicing their response plans. They run simulations where teams pretend a hack is happening and work through how they would respond. The Starlink hack was painful, admitted one industry leader, but it might have saved us from something much worse in the future. We're all taking security seriously now. While no system can ever be completely hack-proof, the space industry is working to stay one step ahead of threats. As satellites become even more important to our everyday lives, the lessons learned from the Starlink attack will help protect our growing infrastructure in space.